Yo, what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with STORMYBMAN and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens as we break down today's fights and the events that have just wrapped up, being the card that was the main event of NERY versus FIGUEROA, and that's for this Saturday, May 15th, and 2021. What's going on to everybody that's out there? Thank you for joining us as we get down to it. What's going on with you, Reggie? Good call this evening, bro.
Thank you, OG. Thank you, man. Just chilling, man. Enjoyable cards, man. Enjoyable cards.
Man, there was some leather flying tonight, wasn't it? It's like Punch Stats was having a hard time dozing off tonight. They had to keep up with these guys. They were letting it fly, man. And you know, it's amazing because when guys have just enough power to get some respect in there, but not enough power to, like, you know, end it with a single shot, you see what you see tonight. You know, it's like it's tug of war, teeter-totter, whatever you want to use. But that's what it was this evening. And I'll tell you something. That punch that ended the fight, you know, it didn't look like much when you know, the action was live and everything. It almost looked like a ghost situation. But hey, man, it happens in the sport of boxing. When you wide open, somebody is bound to walk through the door, you know. So, but yeah, man, let's get down on into it, man. We got people out here decided to come and check us out this evening. Let me salute a few people out here. We had Perfect Timing 13 out there a little early, and so was Jeff the producer. Channel member DT is out there, says salute STORMYBMAN and everyone. Love Thyself is out there, says salute. Channel member Bruce Goes out there, says salute STORMYBMAN, listening in bed, salute to the family. And Shakers and Dice is out there, says salute Stormy, Reggie and Kurt. And Chicano Prophet is out there, Love Thyself, says decent night of boxing. Tone Brown is out there. Ricky E245 says, what's up, STORMYBMAN? Mike 202, channel member, says blessing sensei. And Shakers and Dice says Reggie and Stormy have to eat crow. Both of you pick NERY. Man, you know what? Well, I ain't gonna even go ahead. DT says salute at Reggie. What's going on, Reggie, man? Go ahead and kick things off with the main event, how you called it, how you saw it, what your thoughts are, and we'll go from there.
Oh yeah, I was wrong on that one. I thought NERY was gonna come out here and put a beating on Brandon Figueroa. I don't think nothing special Brandon Figueroa's style. I don't like it, but the kid, it works for him. It works for him, but also should have kept in mind of thinking of who the undisciplined fighter in Luis NERY. And just like Fulton said, he ain't even supposed to be in that division. He's supposed to be a 118er. But based on him being undisciplined, he's like the Adrian Broner of that division. Lack of discipline. He's also one of these guys who try to cheat his way through things with Budoral. Got caught with that, being he couldn't use that. He can't keep his weight down. He's another dude failing on the scale, missing a lot of his fights based on what he can't do as far as keeping weight in control. So I should have thought about that, but I know NERY can fight. But with Brandon coming in with this style to where he lays on you, he pressures you, it takes a lot to kind of get him to back up off you. And NERY had him hurt in that first round. And if NERY didn't pull him down, he probably could have went back in there to try to finish off, to get the guy, to hurt the guy a little bit more to get him down. But Brandon, being in great cardio, able to recover and just come in with that style, moving in forward, mauling over his dude, laying a lot of weight, tiring his opponent down. And he was hitting NERY with a lot of clean shots. I thought NERY was making a lot of mistakes going off with when he was throwing his hooks, he was throwing out too wide, leaving himself open to get hit with some of these old awkward style hooks coming over the top. And even in the clinch, Brandon Figueroa was still effective, looping over his shots, coming over the top when he's inside of a tight clinch and still able to land a few of those shots. And he did put a lot of good work to the body. On top of laying a lot of his weight on top of NERY, he did go down to that body as well. And when that final punch came, I didn't see what it hit him. I was like, man, please don't tell me NERY is trying to find a way up out this fight. Like, please. But when they show that replay, seeing that punch coming up under the ribs or wherever it hit as he's throwing the punch, it had an effect on him, because you see him immediately start to grimace after getting hit with the punch. But I gotta start giving Brandon his respect after this one. He's a tough, durable dude who shows his tremendous heart. May not have the best of boxing, but he gets his work done. And he went in here and did what he's supposed to do. Now he sets up himself with a good fight. And that should be an electric fight between him and Fulton. I wish it was sooner than to have to wait all the way to September, but I can't wait for that fight.
Yeah, it seems like that's a very long time. Excuse me. It seems like that's a very long time to have to wait, for the next fight. But as long as we got fights lined up between now and then, it just whet the appetite for what's to come. And, respectfully, we'll get there. Want to acknowledge a super chat donation out there. We got a super chat donation from Mike202. He said he just wanted to hear the jingle, Reggie. So salute to Mike out there with that super chat donation, who wanted to hear the jingle. And also Jeff, the producer, out there in that super chat. He said, best post-fight show. Salute to Storm and Reg. Salute to you, brother. Salute to you. And thank you for your super chat donations, man. We really appreciate it. We appreciate it. We working here. We trying to do our best. Stormy try to keep it entertaining and engaging. Ain't nothing wrong with the OJs too, man. Ain't nothing wrong with hearing those brothers every time they strum up their beats. Reggie, I forgot that NERY is the guy who's been missing weight, who has been given favor with the levels of clenbuterol and everything, and I didn't remember those things until you spoke of them, just before you were signing off on your channel, because I was still listening in as I was preparing to open up for us. And you know what? That's my bad, because fighters like that who have that type of track record, they don't do well. They don't do well when it's time to be under the bright lights with someone of authority and name. And you have to give the Figueroa family a name in the sport, because the people have promoted them. The media has done that. So, and it's obvious that Brandon has more talent than Omar, but at the same time, I don't know that talent is top of the line, but he was able to prevail tonight. He imposed himself, and he made the adjustment of, instead of just trying to box the guy, he went out there and he covered him like a sheep, And when you're the bigger, longer guy, you can do those things, especially if the other guy has that track record that we just spoke of, and also does not have strong Constitution. So that's my bad. And I will admit to that because with certain guys, they're kind of lower on the rung. And that's probably why I wasn't even paying attention to those details when we were speaking on the show last night. So Shakers and Dice out there trying to point out someone being wrong so bad. You know what? You're going to catch a lot of sand in your eyes sitting around waiting on certain people to be wrong about something. You might as well just spend your time trying to learn a thing or two instead of trying to sit back and say, ha ha, I told you so. Because when you point your finger, you have to always remember that you got several other fingers pointing back at yourself. Remember that. Anyway, as this fight went on, Reggie, there was something about it that kind of sound familiar. It had a familiar theme to it. And that was when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And NERY didn't look that tough, did he? He started looking mentally broken, as we were getting into that last round. I remember you making a remark like just before one of the bells, I think it was the bell for the 5th round or something, when you said he was going back to his corner. He didn't look too good. His legs didn't look too sturdy and everything. And he may have been contemplating, how much further he wanted to deal, with the trouble that was at hand. And we saw the end result. That body shot, that was a good body shot, well placed, because he was wide open. He was in the process of throwing a shot himself, and he got caught. I've seen that a lot in boxing, where if you place that shot in there in that rib cage area just beneath the elbow or whatever, not the liver shot, but when you catch a guy when he's throwing his shot too, because you have to remember, you exhale, right? When you punch, and when the impact of the blow lands, all your air is out your body from exhaling anyway, and that's just a double impact. It's like falling on top of a football. So that's kind of like a double effect in what he dealt with in that situation. And it takes about 30 to 60 seconds, depending on the individual, to get that wind back in the body, and that's way beyond the 10 count. And as you see, when he rolled over to his knees and got up, to his knees, he was looking out in the audience. I don't know if he was communicating with somebody he knew out there, and he was nodding his head like, oh, I'm good, I'm cool. But that's what that was. And it took a while. So they stood him up, then they sat him on his stool and everything. And next thing you know, he got his wind back. But that happens in the sport. It happens a lot, really. So, but make no bones about it. He's a man who's cut corners and everything. And when you haven't been on top of your game, and you said even in this weigh-in going into this fight, he was looking nervous about stepping on the scales. Sometimes these things come to fruition, and it shows, But salute to Brandon for the fight. Now he's got a real fighter on his hands when he faces when he faces Steve Fulton. So we'll see that on the horizon next, and we'll see if Fulton can handle that bedcloth style that Brandon likes to impose on people. We take a moment, and we got another super chat out there. Who is that? We got Taylor Bell out there in the super chat. What's good with you, Taylor Bell? He says, staying up late with STORMYBMAN and Reggie. Love it. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Taylor Bell. Always supporting the channel, man. Leading the way with the super chat. Yes, sir. So, but yeah, Reggie, those are my thoughts on that main event, because, NERY, he went as long as his ticker could take him, and Brandon prevailed. So it is what it is when it comes to that. You there?
Oh yeah. I thought you was going to the next segment, but no, that's all I had, man. Luis and NERY disappointed the heck out of me, man. But I can't take nothing away from Brandon no more. I gotta give him his credit. Even going into this Fulton fight, I gotta call that as a tough fight, man. I can't favor Fulton fully in this fight until I see the way that he figures out how to battle this style that Figueroa comes in there with.
Yeah, he's got to deal with it.
Yeah, because even boxing and sticking the jab, this guy's going to still come at you. And he's still going to have to probably end up settling the fight in his type of fight until he doesn't want to engage with you anymore in his style. You're just going to have to best him. But I think early in the podcast, Felton was speaking about fighting in that kind of style. He likes fighting in that inside style, even though he could box. So we'll see how well he does it against this guy and see if the power registers with keeping Brandon up off of him. But that's my thoughts with that.
Excuse me. Dialing it back to the fight before the bantamweights, where you had Danny Roman taking on Ricardo Espinosa. Reggie, this was another blood and guts fight there, literally, where these guys were back and forth. One man was imposing himself, then the other man started rising to the occasion. A very much ebb and flow type battle that we speak of when you see transitioning in boxing. What were your thoughts on this fight?
Well, oh man, this probably was the fight of the night. The fight of some fights where Roman, I thought, was way over his head. I thought Roman was going to go in here and get crushed. I didn't think he had enough power to keep this guy off him just based on looking at the record. But it also goes into looking at a score on another fight that doesn't fully tell the story of what you watch. Because looking at a fighter's record, not seeing many knockouts on it, you look at it as, oh, he has no power. He's not going to be able to keep this other guy who has 25 wins with 23 knockouts or something like that, that this is a big power punching guy. But then this also takes me back to the same thing with Floyd, where they say, oh, Floyd doesn't have, at one point in his career, he didn't have many knockouts. So people process that, oh, he has no power. But Floyd was able to keep a lot of guys from walking in on him. So that's probably the case with Roman. But going in here, that dude, Espinosa was on his head. I thought Espinosa was going to end this fight by at least the fourth round. He had Roman moving around that ring, running away from him, seeing the guy loading up on those big shots. But once Roman began to settle things down, finding his distance, establishing his own ability to box a little bit on the inside, but then start stepping towards this dude. Once he started stepping towards this dude and catching him, it began to settle things down to make this guy Espinosa try to figure out what to do. But all he has is the one style. He really had no boxing. He'll try to use the jab a little bit, but then resort back to trying to be the more domineering dude off of a power standpoint, where he never really was able to deliver a powerful shot that hurt Roman not once. But Roman start implementing his own level of power and started to come forward on this dude. Then once those uppercuts started to mix up, once the uppercuts started to come in, it was curtains. I think in the fifth round, where I seen him cracking with his first significant punch, I thought it kind of locked the legs up, where people get that little stuttering step in their legs. I seen that happen at one moment. Then going into round 7, I was writing them down. Round 7, he cracked him again. Had the dude Espinosa hurt a little bit there, bust his nose open, had him bleeding from the nose and the mouth. And then when he went into round number 8 is where those uppercuts start to come in. He started cleaning them with them vicious uppercuts. And from round 8 all the way to the 10th round, he never left away from the uppercuts. It was just like he put himself in a position to start catching this guy with the uppercut. And it got so bad where the doctor came out there in round number 9, had to give him a good look and said, we'll watch him. I thought the doctor was going to be brought out there again, but he just started painting this guy with his own blood. The dude ended up being a different color at one point in the fight. He was really a red man in there. It was a good adjustment, good work from Roman in the fight. I thought he was just going to get crushed. I thought he was going to get bulldozed in this fight. For the first 2 rounds, it looked like it, but once he made that adjustment, let the bully know, I ain't afraid of you. Here, how do you feel getting punched back? And the bully couldn't take being punched back. And it started making him think about some things. And hey, he got a whooping put on him. He got a reversal put on him that was so classic right there. And I enjoyed what I seen Danny Roman come in there with. It made me stop looking into how many knockouts people have on their records to evaluate what they can do to somebody. Because I already understand people who are just going in there with power don't always have the greatest of success when they go in there here with somebody who can box and them knockout punches don't come. And that's exactly what happened in this one.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, all a guy has to do is stand up to a person that's being aggressive, and then you'll find out if that aggression is a bluff or not. But Espinoza was taking some punishment to the face, man. You know, some of these guys, you have to really admire their courage for staying in there. You know, when your mouth is split open or your nose is split open or your ear is split or whatever, you know, and you go back to the corner and you say, how bad is it? And they telling you, you're good, you're good. Your stuff is hanging apart. It's like, man, you know, it's a tough business, bro. I remember Evander Holyfield talking about his fight with George Foreman. He said after one of the rounds, George had hit him in the mouth, and he came back to his corner. He thought George had knocked his teeth out his mouth. And he said, did he knock all my teeth out? And they said, oh, you're fine. And he said he was really looking around because, you know, he knows what I just was saying. It is like your corner is inclined to tell you that you're good when you really are, you know, in critical situation, but they want you to stay spirited, you know. So he was worried that his teeth were knocked out because he couldn't feel nothing, and it was, you know, he had lost the feeling in his mouth. But he said Georgie Benton and Lou Duva was like, yeah, you're good, you're fine. He was like, he was so glad when he got the feeling back that, you know, his teeth were there, because he said he could have sworn that George knocked his teeth out of his mouth. So I tell you, Espinoza, man, he, you know, doctor was looking at him. They were looking. They was like, hey, you know, we'll give him another round. But it's like the dude was in there. He was hanging, man. He was hanging. And salute to Rahman. He pulled out a tough fight, you know. Turned out to be an exciting fight, very crowd pleasing, but you know, a lot of times you don't even know what to expect until these matches kick off like that. You just have no way of knowing. If you had a way of knowing this, you would tune in and be ready to see it. You know what I mean? So it's like, but that was an entertaining fight and a nice warm up for the main event. So those are my thoughts on that one. And the fight before that, where we had Xavier Martinez against Juan Burgos. Hey, Reggie, that fight right there, Burgos was bringing it, man. He was bringing it. But he, you know, at the age of 33, for him, it might be a little bit older than that because, you know, he's been in there with some top flight fighters, but at the same time, he's taken a lot of punishment. He's not the most technically savvy guy, although in this fight, it was there for him to box behind the jab a little more. But Martinez kind of suckered him into a fight where they could exchange because Martinez was throwing the shorter, sharper shots. His combinations were more crisp, and it looked like every time Burgos was doing something very well, he was hurting himself. At one point, it looked like he hurt his hand. Another point, it looked like he hurt his shoulder or his back or something. But, you know, you even spoke on that. What were your thoughts about this fight?
Great fight to start the card off, man. That was an electric fight, and kind of this whole fight card kind of kept that same electricity to it. But this one starting out, and I heard that Burgos was a last-minute replacement, which really showed how tough this guy is. Wonder what he'd be. But he probably was in the gym and in shape, but if he could have game planned for the opponent he came in and not being a last-minute replacement, but it pulled the best and made Martinez have to dig deep. And this is the type of fight that a fighter Martinez needs to see what it is as you move up the scales in boxing to where you're going to deal with fighters who you can't get out of there, who don't back up, who are constantly moving forward at you. This is a good test for him. I just didn't like the fact when he was laying on the rings, on the ropes, even though he fought pretty good off the ropes, but he can't do that against other type fighters. And to him, Burgos always had this point in the fight. Past that 130 mark, with 130 left in the fight, he seemed to fade out. And that allowed enough for Martinez to start coming in to delivering his work, to steal the fight, being his delivering shots more in combinations, and able to pull each one of those rounds out. And that's kind of what threw the crowd off. Is the crowd booed because I scored it the same way that all three judges did, with only giving Burgos only one round. But it was the fact that Burgos would fade and give the rounds back. But this fight was a very, very tight fight, even though one fighter was winning every round, judging-wise. But looking at the fight, it was a spectacular fight and a close fight. And they didn't hold anything back. 800 punches between each fighter thrown. I think more than 250 landed for Burgos, something like 300 and something landed for Martinez. It was a good action-packed fight. And it was something that really pulled a lot out of Xavier Martinez to have to dig deep. But great fight, great effort in there by Burgos, and even a great effort from Martinez, because, he won, he still had to put out a lot of effort, because it could have been just as easy if he didn't give the effort to lose each one of those rounds too, to where it could have been flip-sided.
Yeah, and did you see what I was talking about, where it was there for Burgos to box a little bit, but that's not his DNA. So he elected to brawl. And hey, man, what round was that? It had to have been the 9th round, I think it was, or the 10th, where he was out, Reggie. He was knocked out, and he woke up during the exchanges. And he kept fighting. And Martinez had him. There was a pause. Do you remember that sequence? He paused. Yeah. And he was out, man. He was out. There's an old saying in boxing that old trainers used to say is like, let him fall, let him fall. That's like where you don't smother your work. You're in too close. You need to take a step back and give a guy some space, because he might fall forward or he'll fall on you and grab you, But he was out and he paused, and Martinez got close to him and started throwing follow-up punches, and he woke up and he reached out and he started punching back, and he roused himself back to consciousness. But he was out. I saw it. It's like, it was hilarious because they didn't notice it. The announcers didn't notice it or whatever. The only thing they said that, he was shook up really bad. That shot hurt him. Dude, he was unconscious on his feet, and the fight resumed. It's one of the funniest things you could see. It has happened before. Riddick Bowe was knocked out by Herbie Hyatt. Herbie Hyatt hit Riddick Bowe with a huge right hand. Boom! And Bowe was out. And then Hyatt was still exchanging punches, and he hit Bowe a second time and woke him back up. So, and Riddick Bowe tells that story himself. It's even out here online somewhere on YouTube. You can see he did an interview. He's talking about it. He said Herbie Hyatt is the person that hit him the hardest in his career. He said the dude literally had me out on my feet. I was unconscious, and then he hit me with another shot and woke me back up. Boxing is something else, man.
Yeah, but that was a tough fight with these dudes. Very, very good fight. They can run this whole card back. They can run this whole card again.
Yeah. Very good matches. They were very entertaining, and you know, it just goes to show, like, you don't have to know the guys' names or whatever. You could tune in and still be highly entertained. Excuse me. I want to go to the chat for a moment. We had a couple more people join us up, and Zenith 360 is out there. Sylvester is out there. He says, salute, brother Stormy. He says, what's poppin'? Taylor Bell says, Figueroa got a hot sister. Zenith says, people forget Figueroa is a gigantic 122 pounder. He's closer to Spence height and reach than he is against anyone in his division. Those punches hurt. Andrew Charles is out there, says peace and blessings to the chat. IGM Tim is out there giving us the thumbs and the gloves up. Love Thyself says, if Roman had a little power, he would be much better. He is good though. Robert Smiley is saying facts. And Andrew Charles says, yeah, he ended up taking a beating. Mike 202 says Berlanga's future. Mark Stearns is out there, says salute Stormy and Reggie Owens and the chat. Salute to you. KQKC Boxing Network is out there. He says salute to everyone in the chat and the host STORMYBMAN and Reggie at KQKC Boxing Network. Salute to you, KQ. And why is KQ not modded up? Had to add a mod for KQ. Neutral Natural is out there, says Navarrete versus Brandon Figueroa in the future. That would be an interesting fight. IGM Tim says, I will fight to the end. I will bleed to the end. I will go down till the end, in his Oscar voice. And Neutral Natural says Navarrete gets killed at 130. And Martinez versus Colbert need to fight for the Super WBA title, Super Featherweight title next. Davis not fighting at 130 no more. Johnny Gotti is out there, says salute family at STORMYBMAN. What's good? I don't know who Johnny Gotti is. This is the first time I seen him out there. What's going on with you, Johnny Gotti? Big homie Coop is laughing. Mike 202 is laughing. And Big homie says, back smack that like button, people. And he says, very entertaining indeed. Sylvester says, I don't think NERY would want another one with Brandon. Laugh out loud. Probably not. And Big homie Coop says, great context as usual, Sifu. Salute to you. Ricky E245 is saluting KQ. Reggie is saluting Ricky. And Thrill Hill says, salute Stormy B and Reggie. Salute to you, man. Just trying to catch up on people and acknowledge them, man, as we go forward. And Reggie, you know, earlier in the day there was a DAZN fight card taking place, and they had a selection of, you know, fighters on there, but the one fighter that I felt like was the one that we wanted to see and talk about was the fight with Joshua BUATSI. And that guy right there is definitely a fighter that we need to see again, talk about, and everything, because this is a quality fighter, BUATSI. Reggie, give me your thoughts on the fight that took place with BUATSI and Dos Santos earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying I think that was the last fight we may have seen of Dos Santos. I've never seen a fighter cry so much in my life. It was so bad that even Dos Santos is still balling in the locker room. BUATSI having to go in the locker room and stole him once again. Tell the corner to please look after this fighter, as this dude is in a horrible mental state. Never seen that in my life, watching a fighter cry like that. But in that one, man, BUATSI, like, I know too much about Dos Santos, but I know BUATSI is a very aggressive style fighter who boxes. He ain't just one of these aggressive style brawlers in that. He's just mean, vicious dude who's looking to get you up out of there. Perfect jab work. And once he closes in on the inside behind that jab, he's coming in here to try to crush you. And that's what he was doing. And some of the instructions that was given by Virgil, he listened to every bit of it. He listened to every bit of it, cleaned things up, made those subtle adjustments, and everything Virgil seen, it was happening. And also the other thing was this dude was scared to heck of BUATSI. That guy, it was one moment at the second round. He was running so much from BUATSI. It was just, he was showing way too much respect, way too much fear of BUATSI, that the bell went off and the guy flinched and covered up. I said, oh my God, this dude is terrified of who he's in the ring with. He ain't never, I don't know if he's, what kind of training they got him going through, what kind of sparring, but he wasn't used to a guy coming at him in such an aggressive manner. And then the way that knockout came just like what you're saying, what he said from Virgil Hill, to fake it down, lower to the body, come back over the top. And that's exactly what he threw. It delivered, and it was a curtain call. That dude went right to sleep. Caught him right on the chin. He was out before that, and then he delivered another shot, striking that dude to the ground, and he was out cold. And when he woke up, he couldn't stop crying. This guy cried for about 30 minutes, literally straight, because they got video of him in the locker room where BUATSI had to be his therapist once again. So he knocks the guy out, turns into being his therapist, Dr. Phil. But that's all I got on that one. But I want to see where BUATSI goes after this one. But I don't think Dos Santos is going to fight again. That was just a bad look for him.
Listen, man. This guy, you know how high I am on Artur Beterbiev. He's even on my Thunderous Top 10 list, Reggie. This man right here might be the next guy to kick the door in to reach the Thunderous Top 10. He has a crowd-pleasing style. He has a championship caliber disposition where he wants to get better. He going out, he was already a big punching guy, but he went out and got a Western trainer to help him. Virgil Hunter, who has worked wonderfully with Andre Ward and an assortment of other professionals. But this man, still early in his career, 14-0 now with 12 KOs. He's just like Artur Beterbiev, you know, and he wants to get better. Shout out to L Dub out there. I see L Dub out there in the chat. Salute to you, bro. He wants to get better, Reggie, and he fights with spirit. When he went out there in that first round and they exchanged jabs, you know, he felt Dos Santos' jab, and they said that Dos Santos is a Frenchman, I believe. That's kind of weird. It's like with his name and everything. But anyway, when he felt this jab, you saw him change his mindset immediately and was like, oh no, I'm going to win the battle of the jabs too. And he started putting some heat on his own jab that made Dos Santos' eyes buck. You know, it's like, he was like, what is this? You know, he immediately realized he was in hot grease and he was trying to jump out the pan. You know what I mean? But there was nowhere to go. As Joe Louis said many years ago, you can run in that ring, but you can't hide. There's nowhere to hide. And he just turned the heat up on this young man. It's a shame that he broke his spirit like that, along with possibly his jaw, because it can be very demoralizing for fighters. It's one of the reasons why we talk about, you know, fighters fighting fights where they learn something and they can develop. This man can beat top contenders right now, but you have to carefully guide him so he doesn't miss the step in his progression. If he gets a fight against that kid Richardson that just fought Bivol, that would be a good fight. And contended upon how he does in that fight, you can put him in there with Bivol. But I like what I saw from him. He's well represented. When they interviewed him in his post-fight, he said, there's no holiday. He said, I'm getting right back in the gym, and we're going to be over there in America working out. Now, again, he said, so what that told me was he's already been in the U.S. training with Virgil Hunter. He didn't have Virgil Hunter come over there. He was here already. So what does that mean, Reggie? He's getting American sparring. Okay. And they just probably have put a gag order on things. It's like, you know, because you get rumblings, right? But now that he said that, maybe some word about that will get out, because he's good. And he is the goods. I'm not certain how many fights he's had under Virgil Hunter, but I know that I saw the last fight that I saw him, Hunter was not working with him. But what I loved was what I heard in the corner, the instructions he was being given, and how he would go right back out there in the next round and follow up and implement exactly what his trainer was telling him. Man, I love fighters like that, because those are the kind who can be on a fast track learning curve. Because when the trainer tells them to do something and they believe in the trainer and they go out and do it and then they're successful, that only makes them buy into the trainer even more. And it becomes a situation where trust comes into play, and then these guys fare much better as a result of that trust. They have a real solid foundation to build upon. And he is all business when it's fight time. They talked about him having tunnel vision when he's preparing himself. They talked about how he's very dedicated and he's a hard worker. You know, lots of people say that about fighters, but there's just something about him where I really believe that. And out of his effort this evening, I saw it come to fruition. And I'm just impressed. And I told you, after, you know, the fight, we were communicating. I said, I can't wait to see this guy again. That's the type of fighter he is, and that's the type of impression that you want a fighter to have on an audience. It's like, man, when can we see that guy again? You know what I'm saying? And I hope they don't make a long wait for him. I hope that they get him back within 60 days or so, or possibly 90 days. Get him right back in there, because he's ready, man. He's ready to take another step. Let me hear what you got to say. I know I kind of went a little long-winded on him. I'm just high on the guy. You know, there's a couple fighters that I like out there, and he's definitely one of them.
No, I'm excited to see his return as well. I just want to see all these dudes fight. I want him to start seeing them have more American fights, get out of that UK market so that way he gets greater exposure over here. And he may have to break away from Eddie. Eddie seems to be reluctant about bringing his fighters over here. But I think this guy may be the goods, and it's time for him to mix it up where all the top tier fighters are at. It's not in the UK. Eddie Hearn has to recognize this. If Eddie Hearn wants to become the promoter he's wishing to become, he has to break out of fighting in that old domestic market in the UK. Once those fighters prove themselves in that European circuit, you got to move them over here where the rest of the competition is. They got to mix it up with people out of South America, out of Asia, out of Russia, Africa, everywhere. This is where the international competition meets, is over here in this country, not over there. And I think this dude, BUATSI, may be ready to mix it in with these dudes. He can box. He's strong, aggressive. It's time to let him be seen. But that's what has to happen, is either Eddie's going to have to change or he has to make a change away from Eddie and sign over here. Don't go to Bob Arum. Probably just going to be be over there with the PBC is going to be his best bet. If Eddie was better at doing more fights over in America, not just fighting his American fighters over here and keeping his UK fighters over there, no, you got to bring them all over here. Stop playing the nervous game, Eddie. Let this guy fight. And I don't think this dude's going to hold back. I think this guy's ready to be that guy.
Yes, sir. Going back to the chat for a moment, we got Roja in there. Chat, he says, BUATSI is good. Love Thyself says, BUATSI is nice. And he says, Virgil got a nice stable of fighters right now. And let's see. Okay, I see your comment out there too, Reggie, about Dos Santos being knocked out and crying uncontrollably. L-Dub says Virgil Hunter has Mario Barrios too, for your information. And Roja is suggesting BUATSI versus Yard. Man, he'll kill Yard. Andrew Charles says, I knocked the guy out one time, and when he woke up, he just started sobbing. He was truly sad about the situation. Love Thyself says, Virgil got Tony Yoka too. And C99 is giving the thumbs up. Love Thyself says, maybe homie had a bad concussion. It can cause uncontrollable sobbing. That very well may have been it. BBG says, BUATSI looks good. Rojai says he should go beat up Yard. He just wants Yard killed, huh? L-Dub says, Sissoko, BUATSI, and Barrios was in camp together. Iron sharpens iron. That's for sure. If those guys were all in camp working together, man, that was a pretty darn good camp. And they all fought recently, and they all had victories, man. So that's what's up. BBG says BUATSI's looking to fight 3 times this year. Sign of the Times. TV Haiku says 90-day turnaround would be good. L-Dub says BUATSI may return on July 17th on the white undercard in the U.S. That would be a nice turnaround. You're right. And let's see. Money in the Ghetto says every UK fighter that Eddie brings over here gets touched up. Well, this kid ain't been touched up yet, and I think he's going to be better. He's having success. It's hard when somebody is good, Reggie, when a fighter is good and they've got good training, they're getting good sparring, they're being moved in the proper way. There's something about that magic that happens with those fighters. They just take off, man. They take off like a sprinter on a track field, you know. And I think he's going to be one of those guys. I think he is going to be a guy who we'll be talking about by the end of the year. There's just some fighters you could just tell something. Remember in the exchange when Dos Santos hit him with that uppercut and he fired a left hook immediately? It's like the uppercut that he took was a solid shot, but he was so determined to do what he was doing. He was so mentally strong that he hit the guy, and the guy never even tried to do that again or whatever. It was like very impressive. There are just certain things that you can tell when you see certain fighters, man. And I don't want to sound like I'm just singing praises, but we have to understand that there are a lot of fighters out there today that are not the goods. And the only reason that you don't know that they're not the goods is because they haven't gotten in there with someone to test them, to show you that they're not the goods. And so they're hiding. They're hiding behind records. They're hiding behind opponents. They're hiding behind promoters. It's happening right before your eyes. You look at Ryan Garcia with what he pulled recently, you know, and I don't know that he might have pulled what he pulled with all of these call outs and taking offers off the table and fights being set up and pulling out and this and that, if Luke Campbell didn't knock him on his can. That did something to him mentally. And it's because he's been doing things to other people. He didn't think it could happen to him like that. And he's fortunate that he was able to get up and finish that fight and end up getting Campbell. But the thing about it was Campbell was not really a puncher. He was not really a killer. And those are the kind of things that deep down inside, when a guy know he don't have it, he knows. And the rest of boxing, the boxing world, the fighters that are competing at the same weight class as this guy, they should take him off the table as a fighter, because he's not going to make it mentally. Yeah, he wants to hide behind having mental problems or whatever. Yeah, right. You got more like heart problems. You understand? And that's the thing that can be exposed. But you have fighters out here that are ready to step up to the plate and be answered. You got Jaron Ennis out there, a couple other fighters. You got this man here that we're talking about presently. And there's so much to be said. When these guys start carving out their niche, the path just opens up to them, and it seems like they're the only one on that road. You know, and I just can't wait to see guys like that perform again. Definitely. So that's what I have to say on that one, Reggie, about BUATSI. And it was mentioned in the chat that this was his first fight with Virgil. So if that's the case, man, they're off to a great start.
Oh yes, indeed.
So, you know, but you got anything else, Reggie, that you want to mention before we start to wrap things up?
No, that was all I had on these fights. Just a good day of fights, all from the BUATSI fight all the way up to the Showtime fights. Good fights.
Yeah, very impressed with the action that we saw today. They may not have been the names that we've longed for, but we got some action today, and that's the one great thing about boxing. When you get these mesh of styles and the fighters' personalities and characters come to the forefront, and you get this kind of entertainment. I was happy with what I saw today. I don't have a lot of gripes or anything about it, but I just wanted, you know, the sport to do well. I want the fighters to make the moves that they need to make so that they can create names for themselves in the sport. But yeah, that's about it. That's what I have on it. So if you want, you can give us your final thoughts on everything, Reg, and let people know where they can find you. And we'll, you know, let everybody head on into the night and enjoy the rest of their weekend.
Yes, sir, man. Another good fight week. Unexpectedly good fight week. Thank you guys for coming on out. Man, we'll catch you guys. Is the fights the next week? Oh, yeah, you got is that unification next week in the 140?
Yeah.
Taylor versus Ramirez. It's going to be another good week of boxing, man. And hopefully they continue it on. A good card to go along with that main event. And they got a lot on the line. I think those guys going to give it their all. So I can't wait till next week. Some more boxing. A lot of boxing happening. Boxing ain't always got to be about the top guys find each other. Just more of these dudes who don't get noticed to come out and always give the efforts that we seen with these guys tonight. And hey, make people focus back on this game, man, because they ain't always got to be you having a name behind you, but make people know who you are. But that's all I got. Catch you guys on the next one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this has been another post-fight show with STORMYBMAN and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. We had a full day of fights. Even though we did not talk about some of the undercard fights for the BUATSI card and everything, he was the feature, and we wanted to focus on and we look forward to seeing that man on his outing again. Some of those other fighters that were on there are guys that you won't hear from, and if they do, we will mention them in the future. So it's been a great day of boxing. Look forward to what's coming up next week. Keep your eyes peeled. There'll be some stories coming out this week and everything. We've got a hearing that's supposed to come through for a result for the arbitration with the Wilder Fury situation. There'll be some more fights announced coming up, and we just look forward to what we do in the sport of boxing out here on the airways of YouTube. So appreciate everybody that decided to tune in and catch us for this evening's show, and we look forward to seeing you again this time next weekend as we cover some more fights for you. So for my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens, this is STORMYBMAN. We're going to sign off for now. You guys have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace to everybody, and please stay safe out there. Peace.